Hi everyone, and welcome back to Algebra 2. I'm Mrs. Stillwell, and I'll be covering our lesson for today. Please remember the rules of note-taking. If you see it on your screen, you should be writing it in your notes. Some of you printed the notes out ahead of time, which will allow you to just watch and work through the examples. Feel free to add things in your own words so they're easier for you to study later on. Don't forget to hit pause and replay as often as you need to. This is especially true during the examples and the U-Try problems. You will need good notes to study from this year, as well as a review for when you take pre-calculus next year. Okay, here we go. Today we will be tackling 5.4a, that is Chapter 5, Rational Expressions and Radical Functions. Section 4a, Solving Radical Equations. Our learning target today is 5b, I can solve radical equations. Now there are multiple ways to solve radical equations. I'm going to start with the very basic one first. Vocabulary and concepts for today. Our steps to solving radical equations, there's only 4 of them. The first one is isolate the radical on one side of the equal sign. If there are 2 radicals, you need to get one on each side of the equal sign. Isolate means get by itself, so you'll be moving the radical to the left-hand side. After you do that, you're going to be eliminating the radical, which means getting rid of it. To get rid of a radical, and a radical looks like that, of course, you square both sides if it's a square root, you cube both sides if this was a cube root, etc. That would be the second step. The third step. Solve the remaining equation. It will be a basic algebra equation that will look something like this. And you would just solve it like normal. The last and maybe the most important thing is always remember to check your answers. In a lot of things in Algebra 2, there are not extraneous answers, but you will have extraneous answers in radicals. Extraneous means extra answers that don't work. So please always make sure that you check them. Again, our steps will be isolate the radical, which means get it by itself. Eliminate the radical, which means square, cube, whatever you have to do on both sides. Solve the remaining equation, which will be a basic algebra equation. And remember, please always check your answers. Examples of those steps look like this. If I have the cube root of 2x minus 3 is equal to 2, the first thing I have to do is isolate the radical. That means I have to get this radical by itself, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I have isolated the radical. I can tell because it's by itself. The second thing I have to do is eliminate the radical. To get rid of a cube root, I need to do a cube power, because of course these two things cancel each other out. I have now eliminated the radical. Please remember, if you cube the left-hand side, you have to cube the right-hand side. Once I have done that, I'm going to solve the remaining equation. Those cancel, so I'm left with 2x is equal to 125. Divide both sides by 2. That's our solving the remaining equation. And we have our answer, which is 125 over 2, or 62.5. Now, if I stop, I have done the problem incorrectly. I haven't finished it. Finishing it means I have to go through and check the answer. That means going right back here, and wherever I see an X, I'm going to fill in the 125 over 2, or 62.5, and work the problem out to make sure it's true. So, once I put 125 over 2 back into the equation, the 2's cancel, and I'm left with the cube root of 125. The cube root of 125 happens to be 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. And I was supposed to be getting 2 all along, which means that it worked. That means that I am done, and my answer is correct. Please never call it done until you've actually checked your answers. Okay, 3 steps again. Step 1, isolate the radical or get it by itself. Step 2, eliminate the radical, squaring both sides or cubing both sides. Step 3, solve the remaining equation, always a simple little one like this. And most importantly, check your answers to make sure that it works. Okay, let's jump into some you try problems. Actually not. Let me try some example problems. Okay, if I have a fourth root, I have to isolate. Well, the root is already isolated, so I am good. To get rid of a fourth root, I'm going to use a fourth power. And if I do it on the left, I have to do the same thing on the right. Those cancel. 2 to the fourth power is 16. So far, I isolated it, although it already was isolated. I eliminated the radical, and now I'm going to solve the problem. To get rid of a subtracting 7, I'm going to add 7. To get rid of a multiplying 7, I'm going to divide 7. That does not reduce, so I am ready to check. I'm going to go right over here, and I am going to start again with the fourth root of 7 times x minus 7 equals 2. There was my original. I believe 23 over 7 is the correct answer. So let's check how that works. These cancel. Nothing similar happened in the exact same way in the last problem. So now I have 7 canceling 7, which means I've got 23 minus 7 equals 2. 23 minus 7 is 16 equals 2. The fourth root of 16 is 2, and 2 is definitely equal to 2. Please make sure that you check your answer before you call it done. Okay, if you would please hit pause. Problem number 2, go ahead and do that one as a you try problem. As soon as you're done and have checked your answer, okay, please don't be lazy, make sure you check your answer. Please turn your video back on and we will check it together. Okay, welcome back. Our first step is going to be isolate the radical.